This is 1 year with my Hyundai Ioniq 5 all-wheel drive limited. Hey everybody, welcome to Cars Jubilee. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to take you through 1 year of ownership with my Ioniq 5. Let's get to it. There's a lot to unpack, so I think I'm going to split it actually into 3 parts. This first part, we're going to talk about the maintenance, the upkeep items. We're going to talk about seat comfort and also savings over 1 year. For part 2, we're going to talk about all my favorite things over the course of a year with my Ioniq 5. And then part 3, we're going to talk about all the things that went wrong with my Ioniq 5 over a year. So if you're interested in all this content, make sure to subscribe so you'll get the notifications. Now, let's start with part 1. Starting with the maintenance costs, our grand total for a year is $0. I mean, this is an EV, right? So there's no oil changes. And that's kind of the beauty of owning an EV, is that you can expect overall maintenance costs, at least over the first couple years, to be pretty minimal. Now, I'm not throwing in repair costs. That's going to be part of the part 3 video, where we'll go over everything that went wrong and how much it cost. But those are things like a cracked windshield, a cracked glass roof. Those are not really maintenance items. So again, overall maintenance costs, $0. That was an easy one. Next, let's move on to the interior upkeep. And I'll be honest, I think Hyundai did a really good job with the interior. The build quality is excellent. All the materials have held up. We don't really have any scratches or dents or missing pieces of anything. And this car has remained extremely quiet, rattle-free, at least up until my car went in for its first service. Now, you guys may know our car has a bit of a liftgate or tailgate alignment issue. And I didn't really bother taking it in until after the 5,000 mile mark. So between February and I think October, the car never went in for service and we had 0 rattles. Then they tried to fix the alignment issue, and since then the trunk's been rattling. So again, I don't really attribute that to build quality. I think that's just the dealer's gonna have to try to fix that one after the fact. But overall, interior build quality has been excellent. No squeaks, no rattles. Nothing's breaking, everything's exactly as it was before. It looks brand new inside. And that brings us to the seats. Hyundai calls them gray two-tone. It looks more like white or really, really light beige to me. But again, they've held up really, really well. Now, when I first bought the car, I was wiping it with baby wipes. If you're a parent, you're gonna have those anyways. We use baby wipes and we use disinfectant wipes just to wipe down the seats. And I was doing that probably every week. I was, really worried that they were gonna get stained, but they weren't. And then at some point, I want to say maybe the 4 or 5 month mark, I bought a product specifically used to clean and protect the seats. And since that point, I've only been wiping the seats down maybe once a month at most, maybe even less frequently. And honestly, they have held up extremely well. No stains, no rips, no tears, no creases. It looks perfectly brand new. And in fact, if you compare my driver's seat to my front passenger seat, you'll actually notice they look exactly the same, except that I have 8,000 miles of usage on this driver's seat and maybe 1,000 miles of usage on the front passenger seat at most. Our girls are at college, so normally it's just 3 of us, and if it's 3 of us, my wife's in back with my son. So this front passenger seat most of the time is just holding bags or nothing. In fact, you may have noticed in some of my videos, I have a seat protector there just because we're always throwing bags and like food and other things on there. But these two seats, they look the same. So overall, I think Hyundai did a really good job. I feel like the seat material is very durable, and I'm very, very happy with my choice to go with the white or the two-tone gray interior, because I love the way it looks and it's held up really well. The paint, to me, looks as good as it did the day that I bought it. Now, over the course of 1 year, I've taken it through our local automatic car wash probably at least 20 times. And I've hand washed maybe 5-6 times. Now remember, mine is the Shooting Star matte gray finish, and the car manual says not to take it through the automatic car wash. But I live in Philadelphia with snow and road salt in the winter. And so I just cannot hand wash this thing in the winter. And honestly, after having taken it through a couple automatic car washes, I realized it feels like this paint can handle it. And so I just started getting lazy and just taking it through the car wash whenever it got dirty. And I have no regrets. In fact, I'm really glad I got the Shooting Star Gray Ioniq 5. A lot of people will tell you that this matte paint feels not quite like matte. It's got a satin finish. It's really smooth. In fact, it's really slippery. So when you do hand wash it, it's easier to wash than a normal wax finish car, because everything just slides right off of it. So I give the paint the thumbs up. Upkeep's been no problem. Now again, it does say that you shouldn't take it through the automatic car wash, and we've been doing it with no problems, but do it at your own risk. The next topic I wanted to tackle as part of this video was actually the seat comfort. Now, I did a seat review for the Ioniq 5 many months ago, and the good news is that everything still holds true today at the 1 year mark. The seats really have not changed. The firmness has remained the same. It hasn't gotten worse, and that's a good sign. That's a good thing with this Ioniq 5. Now, as far as my final verdict with the actual seat itself, I would say it's a pretty middle of the road seat. It's very flat, it's very wide. I don't really feel the bolsters because they're so far apart. And as far as the firmness goes, it is definitely on the firmer side compared to most cars that I've been in. We can again use the front passenger seat as a comparison. This thing barely ever gets used, whereas this one has about 8,000 miles of usage on it. And jumping back and forth between these two seats, it feels exactly the same. No difference, no change in firmness. Now, if you have back issues or you're really concerned about seat comfort, this part is for you. So I have a bad back. I have multiple herniated discs, and for me, typically 2 hours in a car is often where things start going wrong. With the Ioniq 5, I've managed 2 to 3 hours before I start feeling some discomfort, and that's actually a pretty good number. Because in my old Mini Cooper, after an hour, my back was just screaming at me like, you gotta get out of here. So 2 to 3 hours with the Ioniq 5, I think is actually pretty good. I wish the base cushion had a little more to it, meaning more foam, or even just a more dense foam. That way there's more support. And then as far as the lumbar goes, if you take a look, there's actually a seam going right down the middle of the seat. So when you do inflate your lumbar support, you'll notice that this seam is kind of digging into your back. And I can actually feel it even while wearing jackets. And after about half an hour, it actually starts hurting. So what I've been doing is just completely not using the lumbar support at all. And even then, I'm still lasting 2 to 3 hours with the Ioniq 5. So I would say overall, it's not a bad seat. I'd say it's actually pretty good, one of the better ones. But it's not quite on the level of Volvo or even my Genesis GV60. If you take a look at the Ioniq 6 photos and you look at their seats, they removed the middle seam. They pushed the seams to the outer edges, and there is nothing in the middle. So maybe they got some complaints from owners about this middle seam, or maybe they watched my seat review video. I don't know. But I would assume if you're getting into an Ioniq 6, well, you're not going to have this lumbar seam issue. With our Ioniq 5, we have about 8,000 miles driven over the course of 1 year. It should have been more, but this car sat for about 2 months not being driven. That's just a mixture of waiting for parts, waiting for repair shops, waiting at the dealership, all those things combined, which I'll get more into for part 3, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, well, the last thing I want to cover today is the cost savings. Now, according to the Electrify America app, between when we bought the car, February, till about the end of August, we used 1,878 kilowatt hours of electricity for charging. Now, I switched phones at the end of August, and I guess when you switch phones, EA kind of resets that reading on the app. So since that time, we did another 650 kilowatt hours of charging. But we've also got some GV60 charging tied in there since we're using the same account currently. So I would say my best guess is that we used about 2,100 kilowatt hours of charging specifically for the Ioniq 5 for the past 1 year. Now, if we look at what Electrify America would have charged me, we're looking at about $400 or so for charging the Ioniq 5 for the past year. But remember, the Ioniq 5 comes with 2 years free charging, so we spent zero basically charging this Ioniq 5, which is really awesome. Now, in terms of gas savings, well, it's a lot more. And part of that has to do with the fact that I kind of drove gas guzzlers before. So I had a 2008 Audi S6, which had a V10, and I was averaging maybe 13 miles per gallon on premium fuel. Well, then I switched that to a Volvo XC60 T6R design, and that was a 3-liter twin turbo, and I was getting maybe 16 miles per gallon average, also premium fuel. And if we take those 8,000 miles and we use the 16 miles per gallon average, and then we use a current gas price premium around me is about $4.50, that's about $2,200 in gas savings, which is a lot. And we see such a big difference is because my gas guzzlers were not very efficient based on the type of driving I did, which is a lot of slow city driving. Whereas on the flip side, this EV, this Ioniq 5, is fantastic for those driving conditions. So I essentially traded in a gas guzzler and got a more efficient EV that's also quicker 0 to 60. So that's pretty cool trade-off. Now, we did recently start charging at home. We got a level 2 charger installed, and in the winter when it's really cold out, it's just much more convenient. And what if I had been charging the whole year at home? Well, based on the kilowatt hour usage, I think it'd be about $600, maybe $650 total for the year, and that still would have meant big cost savings, about $1,500 we saved in gas for the Ioniq 5 alone. From a cost perspective, I think the savings are there, especially if you're someone like me, you want something quick, something fast, and you're used to paying premium fuel for a gas guzzler. Going with an EV, I think, is definitely the right move. So that's part 1 of my year 1 in review. Again, we just went over some of the maintenance costs, some of the upkeep items, the seat comfort, as well as the fuel savings or savings overall. And we still have a lot more to cover. We still have all the favorite things I love about the Ioniq 5 over the past year. That's going to be part 2, as well as everything that's gone wrong with my Ioniq 5. That'll be part 3. So again, if you're not subscribed already, make sure to subscribe so you get notified when those videos are ready. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.